Hello and welcome to Youth Destiny Nucleus podcast, where young stars discuss young star issues, brainstorm, and try to provide solutions. Welcome back to the Youth Destiny Nucleus podcast. Today we pick up from where we stopped in the previous episode of this podcast, where we looked at the three major challenges of the youth. And under that, we looked at challenge number one, which is the challenge of finances. Today, we take off from there by looking at challenge number two. Challenge number two is the search for emotional security. The search for emotional security. As we advance in age, our emotional needs progress as well. Initially, when we are much younger, our emotions are tied to superficial needs of life, such as the need for food, clothing, and shelter, which are provided largely by our parents. Our emotions are centered around our parents, older siblings, teachers, or any father figure or mother in our lives. And sometimes we get really upset and emotionally downcast when these people offend us by failing to provide the aforementioned needs, such as the basic needs of life, food, clothing, and shelter. But when we become teenagers, our emotional needs grow significantly. We begin to develop emotional desires beyond what our parents, older siblings, teachers, or religious leaders can meet. This is a void in our hearts that can be filled only by the love and care from someone of the opposite sex. It is totally normal for a teenager and a youth to experience this feeling of attraction to the opposite sex. You are not a strange being. You are not a pervert or some sort of freak simply because you experience this. It just shows that you are a human and you are maturing. This desire for emotional security exists, and it is predominant among youths and teenagers, and I feel like we need to accept that reality first off. Sadly, a large proportion of youths and teenagers are trying to satisfy this urge and fill this void with sex, masturbation, and the likes. Attempting to do so is simply a futile attempt to fill square pegs in circular holes. We have established the fact that this craving for emotional security from the opposite sex exists, but it is equally important that we note that this feeling, when not brought under control, can pose huge challenges to your physical, spiritual, and emotional health. Many young people have carelessly handled this craving, and it has led them to destruction. Instead of filling the void for emotional security, they have become slaves to lust. Let's look at some factors that influence the search for emotional security. Factor number one is parental upbringing and family history. Parental upbringing and family history. This is one of the bedrocks which we'll be building on in our conversation today. The quality of your upbringing and your family background largely influences your ability to control this burning desire for emotional security. If you are lucky to have been raised in a decent family where values and discipline are held in high esteem, count yourself really privileged. Some youths were not raised in decent environments. They were brought up in hostile environments that didn't afford them the requisite training to become decent human beings. Raised in harsh neighborhoods where they have been exposed to immoral practices right from a young age. Some were raised by cheating fathers or cheating mothers, and such individuals are most vulnerable to becoming victims of what I describe as the wildfire of lust. Factor number two is financial difficulties. We have trashed the major aspects of finances in the first podcast, and if you've not listened to that, I crave your indulgence to please go back and listen to the first podcast before you join up on this one. So factor number two is financial difficulties. This factor leans more to the female side than it does to the males, but it's all encompassing. Actually, I'm just saying it leans more to the females than it does the males. A lot of females and guys as well in higher institutions come from backgrounds that are not doing so well financially. As a result, there's this struggle to cater for their basic needs in school. You find students struggling to get money to eat just is one meal in a day, and it poses a huge challenge for them. And this has led a lot of youths into hookups, prostitution, etc., etc. To overcome this challenge and bring lust under control, it is necessary for the individual concerned to understand their background and family history, like we have just mentioned. If you come from a background or environment where sexual promiscuity is the order of the day, don't let your history or background define you. You are made for more than that. Make it a challenge and resolution to make a change. Now, how can we bring about this change? Point number one is by building a network of great friends. Building a network of great friends. Many have made resolutions to live disciplined lives and are trying their utmost best to ensure that they stick with them. But unfortunately, their friends are stumbling blocks to these resolutions. If you must tame this wildfire of lust and keep it under check, ensure to keep friends who can be a source of encouragement to you when you're feeling weak and vulnerable. The kind of conversations you have on a daily, the kind of language you use when conversing with your counterparts, the places you go with your friends are all huge markers that can either make you more susceptible to lust or keep you disciplined and chaste. Are your friends the kind of people who during their leisure time watch pornography, or the major topic of discussion is always how to get laid? From such friends, run away. Remember, if you stick around 5 fools, it's only a matter of time before you become the 6th. Tread with caution. Point number 2 is regulate your internet and social media activity. Regulate your internet and social media activity. Social media plays a major role in dealing with lust. In this present day and age, there is limitless access to information, including destructive information such as pornography and the likes. Pornography breeds lust and makes you a slave to uncontrolled sexual desires. In order to put this feeling of lust under control, it is advisable that you control the information you consume on the internet. And I would recommend that you be mindful of the pages and social media accounts you follow, so you don't become a victim and a slave to lust. Social media, like I would always say, is a double-edged sword. One end of this sword can be used as a tool to make you a good living, to help you develop your skills and become rich and independent. The other end of the sword can slay you. Do not hesitate to block and unfollow social media accounts with content that have the tendency to make you vulnerable to lust. Be intentional about every of your activity on social media. Point number 3 and the final points we'll be discussing under this topic is control your thoughts. Control your thoughts. NF made a powerful quote in his song The Search. He said, "Your mind is a powerful place, and what you feed it can affect you in a powerful way." The kind of thoughts you harbor in your mind can greatly influence this battle against lust. Before every action is born, remember it is first conceived in your heart as a thought. Make your mind impermeable to negative thoughts and uncontrolled sexual fantasies. You can control this by being mindful of the type of books you read, like we have already discussed, by being mindful of the kind of social media pages you follow, and also the songs you listen to, and the kind of information you consume from the mass media in general, that's your television and radio. These greatly influence your thoughts. Remember, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you allow lust to breed in your hearts, it's only a matter of time before it germinates. Thank you so much for joining us on this exciting podcast. See you guys in the third and final part. Have a great day.